This video is going to be a film study look at one of the elements to the Detroit Lions offense under Ben Johnson that I think probably hasn't been covered enough on my channel, and that's the third down passing game. Why did I pick this to go over prior to the Packers game? This is a pseudo preview slash film study of the favored concepts that Ben Johnson and Jared Goff utilize and rely on in situations where it's known passing downs. I'm absolving or ignoring, the 3rd and 5s or 3rd and 6s or even 3rd and 8s where they choose to run the ball, check to it essentially based on the defensive alignment on the field. The reason why I'm covering this now is because it's well documented the run scheme diversity that Ben Johnson's offense has in Detroit. Zone and gap run schemes counter occasionally to either side. Yes, Penei Sewell is the best offensive lineman that they have and one of the best tackles or offensive linemen in the league for that matter. So they are a right-heavy run team at times, particularly when it matters. But the pass game, in my opinion, is equally diverse and just as balanced horizontally and in some cases vertically, even though it's well documented and I've covered it as well or tried to a handful of times. The areas of the field that Goff is high percent and very efficient, and then also the parts of the field deeper down the field vertically that perhaps you've had lower percent chance of success, number one. Number two, situations where guys are available and Goff is unable to get them the football for whatever reason. I think the Packers are going to play good defense. And I think part of what they're going to try to do is stop the run early and then get after Goff with the pass. Last year, Detroit was able to beat them convincingly in Green Bay. Green Bay came to Detroit later in the year and won that football game. I believe that was on Thanksgiving Day. This rematch is huge with the Vikings still sitting there, one game behind in the loss column, and the Packers close by as well. The Eagles just beat the Ravens in Baltimore. I believe they're 10-2 at this point. I don't say this is a must-win for Detroit, but if they want to give themselves the best chance to win, they got to run the ball well. They've got to control possession, control the clock, grind down Green Bay's defense, and limit the availability of their own defense to get exposed and or get worn down or injured because Green Bay's offense is very efficient, very physical with a run game and well-run, oiled machine, just like Detroit. So in these situations where theoretically the run game doesn't work, Goff and Ben Johnson are put in a known passing down, I would like to prep you or provide you some insight into some of their third down concepts, why, when, and where I think they run them. So we'll start with red zone stuff first. 4th and 3 against the Packers earlier in the season. This is one of the best routes that I've seen this year. Faking a China in, and then also faking a fade, and then Goff and St. Brown turn into a fade out. So we'll cover a couple of parts of that, what I just said. China in or whip route is St. Brown going towards the sideline and then perhaps bringing it back to the inside. Keep that route that I just drew there in mind. You're going to see it here in a moment. He actually utilized it earlier in the year against Arizona. And then turning it into what looks like it could be a fade, meaning up the field vertically. You guys are losing him there. My apologies. But Goff throws it on the back shoulder. Most people just call it a back shoulder fade. I'm old enough to remember people calling it a fade out. St. Brown's agility, his footwork and quickness, able to change direction so many times in such a short span, is what makes that work, along with Goff's accuracy and willingness to throw the football despite the corner being there, quote, in good relationship. So a very similar route setup, except it's not from motion. Except that the motion and then St. Brown sets before the snap. This is a 3rd and goal against the Cardinals way back in week 3. Check out his route and how similar it is to the location on the field, but also where it stops and comes back in, and Goff finds St. Brown for the touchdown. This, I believe, is where the streak started. I could be wrong in terms of how many catches he had in a row, 30, up through that Packers game. But compare those two routes. And so that's one of the things that Ben Johnson and Goff, I think, rely on, utilize, exploit, is making things look similar. In this case, making St. Brown's route threaten the outside and then come back to the inside and then fast forward or allow your brain to think back to the previous play. He essentially ran the same setup and then turned it into a fade / back shoulder touchdown from Goff. High red zone, or just outside of it, I should say, 3rd and 6 against the Vikings. To me, this is one of the patented or classic Ben Johnson concepts. It's a drag from one side and then on the opposite side, whether it's a tight end or a receiver, sitting on the hash. So here is Laporta emanated from the left-hand side of the offense, and then Khalif Raymond is going underneath. So if he were to clear that space, Raymond, and not be open, theoretically Goff could hit this route right here to Sam Laporta. Now, on top of that, because Gilmore fell down and Raymond is so wide open, it also is set up from a teaching standpoint for Gibbs to be able to recognize, oh, I'm not being targeted here. Let me go ahead and block this second level defender. In this case, it's an inside linebacker, such that it springs free Raymond. So you have three options there to throw the football. Raymond, the drag to the boundary. Laporta sitting on the hash. And then the running back down here into the boundary. I feel like Goff could sometimes check that a little quicker, even if it's just visual, meaning look down there, try to hold people or get them to expand somewhat. It really ended up being a 3-on-2 here. Raymond, Laporta, and Gibbs against the linebacker and the other Pace, I believe it was, dropping out of there, the other inside linebacker, because Gilmore had fell down. So 3-on-2, just never going to work out in your favor. Moving forward here, away from the red zone for a moment, and we're going to talk about these tightly aligned wide receivers. In this case, it's a wide receiver and a tight end, and what that means sometimes for what Ben Johnson likes to do. If he doesn't attack to the boundary, which Todd Monken does it a ton with the Ravens as well, Ben Johnson, I think, focuses on it. A lot of coordinators do across the league, but those two guys are two of the ones, in my opinion, that really go to the boundary a lot. In this case, what they're going to do is vertically release the tight end and then allow the receiver to go underneath. Almost a little bit like a drag, but they're trying to work it out like a pick, such that Raymond can run away from Reek Woolen. Additional to that, St. Brown running it out from the top side. Keep in mind, this is a 3rd and 6. Nothing happening there for Goff. That later developing route to Sam Laporta is a classic Ben Johnson concept. So Raymond, like I said, running underneath, Reek Woolen with him. Laporta acted like a pseudo pick route here, and then deeper or later in breaking route that you'll see consistently in Ben Johnson's offense. Goff has the willingness and the patience at times to come back to that deeper route. You'll see it a couple times in this video. Same game against the Seahawks. It's a 3rd and 3, and multiple teams have attacked Seattle in this way. And so when I say that, I mean ball on the right hash, running some type of play action concept whereby the tight end blocks and then slips out into the flats. It's Reek Woolen that they're attacking in this situation sometimes. He has a tendency to see the block on the tight end and then immediately go, oh, it's passed because the tight end is blocking, and then vacate that space, vacate that area. 3 other teams have run this a similar concept against Seattle so far this year. Also, because it's a 3rd and 3, and Ben Johnson and those guys are willing to run the ball so much on 3rd down, this plays into that as well, because it's making it look like it could be a run block here, and then St. Brown inserting and running the vertical up the seam. That's where Reek Woolen is going, because he knows that essentially it's man for him, and the strong safety rolled up into the boundary has got the tight end. No one is on the tight end because the strong safety, Jenkins, committed to the run play. Like I said, at least 3 other teams have run that exact concept against the Seahawks. It certainly plays off of their willingness to run the football, which is not necessarily what we're focused on here. Same situation from a down and distance, but not from the location on the field. 3rd and 3, later in the season, Week 12 against the Colts. And multiple in-breaking routes. This is somewhat similar to what I described against the Seahawks 2 plays ago when Goff was sacked for a loss of 9 yards. Whenever you've got a bunch set, you've always got the threat of multiple in-breaking routes for Goff. Now, that's actually not how this occurs. There's not multiple in-breaking routes. There's only one. See the triangle relationship between the defenders there? There's 3 of them, and there's 3 Lions players into the boundary. So it's a 3-on-3, even numbers. But what's happening is they are putting this inside linebacker in conflict with St. Brown's later in-breaking route, and then Jameson Williams sitting on the hash. Recall, this is a 3rd and 3. All Goff has to do is read that inside linebacker. Too much space afforded for Jameson Williams. Easy first down, like I said, on a 3rd and 3. With the ability of Jameson Williams to get down the field, get on top of you as a DB, it shouldn't be a surprise that boundary side corners would be off or pushed off by those releases at times. There's just a ton of guys who convert on these third downs. It's not just St. Brown. Raymond, you see. Jamison Williams. Also, Tim Patrick is someone that has to be mentioned for having an impact in 2024 for being a guy who signed at the end of training camp. And Sam Laporta's certainly been less productive this year. Nonetheless, at times on third down, Goff has been able demonstrated the willingness to get the football to him. I think Tim Patrick has been one of the bigger signings across the NFL from a veteran standpoint. You do have a similar dynamic on this play with two tightly aligned wide receivers here. In an empty set, the outside guy, Jamison Williams, going to check up. Patrick running the deeper in cut. So there's a differential in who is running the deeper in cut. So sometimes it'll be like that type of combination. They do the inversion here, which is Jamison Williams checking up, Patrick running the deeper in. Once this inside linebacker shifts over to match Jamison Williams, again, it's a third and short. Patrick wide open over the middle. Easy gain. He's been reliable. He's put himself in locations on the field that make himself available, number one. And number two, he's also had more yards after the catch than maybe any of us would have predicted. He certainly doesn't look like a speed burner at this point. He's found space in zones over the middle of the field, down the sideline. I think he's having a great season. Would you have believed anyone if they told you that he would be averaging more yards per catch, I believe, than Josh Reynolds did last year to this point, if I did my research correctly? Same game against the Colts, Week 12, 3rd and 8. And I call this inverted 11 personnel. So you got two wide receivers into the boundary in the form of St. Brown and Jamison Williams. This also is kind of an amalgamation of all the Ben Johnson concepts into one pass play. So I'll go over this multiple times to let you know what I'm talking about. You do have a player, in this case Patrick, who is hustling to the boundary and then sitting down. It's an incomplete pass to Jamison Williams on a 3rd and 8. So it's inconsequential, but I'm showing you it's pretty much everything packaged into one, if you ask me. You do have this kind of funneled release of the two receivers into the same tunnel, into the same area, vertical release up the field. Jamison Williams going to run the in-breaking route. Oftentimes, you get two of them. In this case, St. Brown actually brings the route to the outside. Yes, Sam Laporta's wide open up at the top of the field, but it's just interesting for me that you've got so much happening here on one particular pass play that I think represents Ben Johnson's offense to a T. Running back out into the flats, receiver sitting on the hash, potential threat of two in-breaking routes. That's not how it works out. It seems to me like Goff and their offense could kind of line up the same way and just run through a cycle of plays repeatedly because A, they're so good at executing them, they're just very efficient, and B, Ben Johnson set things up to where each formation has multiple plays that can be run out of it. Somewhat anomalous play here for a couple of reasons. It's a really nice job in coverage by Ronald Darby. The Jags did not play good defense against Detroit, clearly, gave up 50-plus points. But it's a 3rd and 1 out of 11 personnel, and they're going to play action. Deep over concept to Jamison Williams ends up being incomplete. When I say it's anomalous, what I mean is they're not oftentimes on 3rd and 1 going for these type of passes. I feel like it's generally short passes and or deeper stuff because they know they're willing to go for it on 4th and 1. Goff knows that he has man here on this 3rd and 9 against the Vikings, so he's clearly changing the play. There has been a couple of times this year, however, where I have wondered if Goff and Ben Johnson have something in play where they're making it look like they're changing the play, but they're really not. I'm not saying that that's what's occurring here, but in any case, it's a 3rd and 9. He knows he has man, and this is the drive where Khalif Raymond got off on Gilmore. 3 catches on him, including the touchdown that I've already showed you. From the end zone angle, I think it's pretty clear that Goff is changing the play. But there's times where he's so animated with it that it seems a little over the top to me. The confusion over here between Gibbs and Sam Laporta is the trigger for me to let me know that, hey, it's not fake. In any case, Raymond beats Gilmore to the outside. It's a blessing for the Lions to have so many guys who can win against man-to-man, starting with St. Brown. Jamison Williams as a deep threat, a guy who can break loose if you miss one tackle and man. Raymond, Laporta, Tim Patrick as well. Kind of fading back a little bit on the throw. Vikings obviously bring a lot of pressure. In that case, they dropped out, created the time for Goff to be able to float that over there. Moving backwards a little bit into red zone stuff, number 1, number 2. From week 4 against the Seahawks, it's a 3rd and 8. Attacking out of the slot. We just saw an example of Khalif Raymond beating Gilmore to the front side, meaning an out route from the side where he lined up. Similar dynamic here. And the threat of 2 in-breaking routes is obvious to me when you've got these stacked receivers. I've drawn that up a couple of times. Foundational element to Ben Johnson's offense. In this case, you see that from the release, but what I believe is happening is Laporta is trying to get to the outside hip of this corner and threaten him as much as possible. I'll move that down a little bit. My apologies. I think he's trying to get to the outside hip of that corner and basically hold him, occupy him, such that St. Brown can break to the outside. You can see the corner has been occupied by Laporta. He's covering him, in essence. Great throw by Goff. Gets it to St. Brown. Pretty much wide open for a touchdown. The threat of the in-breaking route, I think, creates other opportunities. Not for St. Brown necessarily, but it creates other opportunities for other players and other concepts to be opened up that maybe they don't use as often, or maybe Ben Johnson doesn't prefer. As an aside, at this point we are into week 14. I think we can say it. It's truly ridiculous what Goff and St. Brown are doing so far. The Packers will have to be fired up to try to stop or at least slow down St. Brown from an efficiency standpoint. I'm not sure that anyone can do it at this point. I may be proven wrong 2 days from now, but it looks like they have pretty much answers for everything. I do absolutely think that at times they are reading the play, meaning Goff and the wide receivers are reading the coverage, during the play, and then changing or adapting the routes depending on what coverage they see. And it's not as simple as, hey, it's man or hey, it's zone. I think they know at times that it's going to be a specific zone or a specific version of man for the most part. Texans, fourth quarter, this was a clutch play on a 3rd and 6. St. Brown is lined up in the slot. Now, it's not going to be man here necessarily. Essentially, the Texans are matching this. So Laporta's route to the outside is going to draw the nickel defender, and then St. Brown just ends up being matched up on the inside linebacker. It's Al-Shahir, I think, actually. Ends up being matched on him. Too much space on a 3rd and 6. Easy conversion. I believe this was a clutch play to retain possession of the ball and hold on for the win. Additional to that, you do have the running back releasing out into the flats, a foundational element of what they do. St. Brown sitting on the other hash and then recognizing the space that Goff throws him onto because it's zone. I think the trust that people always talk about quarterbacks trusting receivers. I think that St. Brown and some of the guys on offense trust Goff a ton. And what I mean by that is St. Brown can't possibly have seen Jalen Petre go out into the flats with the tight end. It's not Sam Laporta. I misspoke a moment ago. My apologies. I don't think Laporta played in this game. Goff throws this ball to the side. Why? Because Goff, knows the coverage and he knows where the coverage defenders are not. St. Brown was already fading in that direction, so maybe he knew more than I thought in this particular instance. Against the Bears, certainly would have liked to convert some more in the first half for touchdowns as opposed to settling for field goals, as well as the second quarter fumble by Jahmyr Gibbs and the missed field goal opportunity in the second half. This is a 3rd and 7 against the Bears early. I think it's the first possession, in fact. I don't have the all-22 angle of this, but there's a one-on-one off-screen over here to our right. It's Jamison Williams. We call it check X stop. And you'll get an idea of what I mean when I say one-on-one because there's literally no one else over there. It's Jamison Williams against Tyreek Stevenson. Kind of a mesh-ish look here, both with the running back and St. Brown. Late match by Kyler Gordon. Jamison Williams gets the first down pretty easily against a very talented corner, if you ask me. I know those two had their issues later in the game. Could have been related to something to do with that play. 3rd and 2, still on that first possession of the first quarter against the Bears. St. Brown all the way across. Think about the routes that we have seen from St. Brown so far when he goes in motion here. My apologies. Against Green Bay, we saw him threaten the China in and then go back out for the fade slash back shoulder touchdown, obviously on the 4th and 3. Against Arizona, we saw him go out and then come back in, China in, whip route, whatever you want to call it. Here, he's going to expand a little wider, and a guy who's less targeted clearly on third downs is David Montgomery. Looks smooth on this particular catch. I actually think that Jack Sanborn is a very underrated inside linebacker. When I have seen him play, he's generally played quite well. This is a 3rd and 2. Quick reaction by him, holds Montgomery to 3 yards. Underrated element of his game, Montgomery's, is catching the football out of the backfield. Still in that first possession, 3rd and 9. A little bit of a variation with 2 receivers to the boundary. Like I've called it a couple of times, inverted 11 personnel, tight end to the field, 2 receivers to the boundary, trying to get you as a defense to declare your coverage. Are you throwing the nickel over there or not? In this case, the Bears choose not to. What would you expect here? You would expect a deeper in-breaking route by St. Brown and perhaps a more shallow in-breaking route levels or levels in, whatever people want to call it. Not really what happens here. This is pretty cool. St. Brown actually breaks his route off a little earlier than Patrick does. Patrick is off screen to you guys. He's at a deeper point than St. Brown. And St. Brown is going to bring this route back to the sideline, kind of like a deeper whip route, a deeper China out. And that is to occupy or pull this safety. It's to open that area of the field up such that Goff can come back to the deep dig. There is a loss there with the left tackle and almost gets their hands on the football in terms of the pass rusher. It's a really nice variation of their levels in concept, if you ask me, because St. Brown is breaking his route off sooner, and he's breaking his route off once he gets past the linebacker level because he wants this guy to match his width. He wants him to open that window for Patrick to run onto. In this case, the ball was thrown too high. Goff is also pressured. He's hit, almost taken down on the play. Still a cool concept, if you ask me, because of the design creates the space. All Goff and St. Brown and Patrick have to do is run the right routes at the correct depth, and the space or the opportunity will be there. My favorite 3rd down of the season, one of my favorite plays of the season, is this mesh return on 3rd and 2 against the Bears. I almost wanted to lead with this one. Not sure how often you run this, just because it's so cool that when you run it, you want it to be a 100% working concept. Tim Patrick is going to run the drag route, and it looks like St. Brown's going to run the drag from the top side as well. That's mesh. If you don't know mesh, you get 2 underneath drags. Oftentimes, the running back releasing to one side. People have different names for it, mesh rail, whatever. And the route that is oftentimes open is this one, because the running back's route clears that side of the field out in man or zone. In this case, it ends up being man, and St. Brown curves this route back around Patrick and beats Stevenson pretty cleanly. And when you get the end zone angle, you'll see it's quite obviously intentional that Goff is rolling to his right and also looking in that direction. He knows, and we know, that NFL defensive players, particularly at the 3rd level, are oftentimes, quote, looking at the quarterback. So he's trying to roll this way, and he's also trying to get players, probably that safety that is off screen right there, to go with him, to flow with him. In any case, it didn't matter. His throwback finds St. Brown onto a ton of space. You'll get the end zone angle here in a moment. How often do you see this play? I'm not sure. I've really only seen it, or I think I've seen it one other time. I do know this, that I think St. Brown and the receivers do a great job of reading man versus zone and then responding based upon which one it is. So if St. Brown, suspected this was a zone, I don't think he returns this route. I think he probably either sits down or continues to go and sits on the other hash. I think he's probably reading the other defender here to the other opposite side, meaning if that guy's trailing Tim Patrick, then my guy, Stevenson, who's guarding me, is probably also in man coverage. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. It certainly worked out for the Lions. Ridiculous concept. A lot of fun to watch. Ben Johnson's pass game. Like I said, I think it's undercovered, at least on my channel, and perhaps underappreciated maybe by Lions fans. The run game, a lot of diversity, a lot of creativity and physicality as well. The pass game, I think, deserves just as much credit. We're into the second quarter here. It's 13-0. Look, the Lions could have put this game away. The Bears are talented, and they have a really good defense. I think they're very good in the red zone. This is a 30-yard catch by Tim Patrick on, guess what, a deeper in-breaking route on a 2nd and 23. You have still some foundational elements of Ben Johnson's offense revealing itself. Running back potentially threatening the flats or a wheel could bring this back into the middle of the field as well. St. Brown running and then sitting down right near the hash. Kind of a rounded dig route by Patrick. Quick hit, if you ask me, in terms of catching it on the run and then getting 30 yards. I mean, Goff is accurate and very intelligent, very smart in his reads and processing things. Him and Ben Johnson have created an offense that can function almost independently of Ben Johnson on the field. I do think that, or suspect that the Packers are going to come into this game with the intentions of slowing down or at times stopping the run game and putting Goff in some of these known passing situations. A little bit of a chess match in that first matchup between the Packers and the Lions when Goff would audible into a run play and then a couple of times actually made it look like he was audibly into a run play and then did not. Those third down moments, you'd like to avoid them. You'd like to not be in 3rd and 7 or even 3rd and 6 at times if you're the Detroit Lions going against that pass rush that you've got over there for the Packers that has given them troubles in the past 2 games specifically. One earlier this year and then one late in 2023. If you guys enjoyed the film study video that I put together here, please let me know in the comment section. Like and then comment, please. That helps drive video engagement. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study look at the Detroit Lions passing game, specifically focusing on third downs in 2024, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach. As an aside, if you join my Lions Discord prior to the college football playoff this year, we're going to do a free bracket pick'em, like NCAA tournament type style, with the college football playoff, the first that's going to have 12 teams included. I don't pretend to be a college football expert, just don't get the time to watch a shit ton of college football film, trying to catch up on it now before the conference championship games. I appreciate you guys' time, man. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section. If you'd be interested in joining my Patreon and participating in something like a college football playoff pick'em bracket, then please let me know in the comment section as well.